Hey guys, welcome to the Experience Point. Again, I'm Driana.
I'm Andrew.
And we're talking about something a little bit different today, aren't we, Andrew?
We're getting into musical theater
Mm-hmm.
with something very near and dear to our hearts. Hadestown. Now, this is actually the poster for the Off-Broadway one, which we'll tell you about our experience with that. But we also recently just saw it on Broadway.
Oh, so good.
Yep. The Tonys were also this week, and it just swept the Tonys. It was nominated for 14, and it won 8 of them. So...
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It blew up.
That's more than half.
Yep. The tagline they've been using is not an exaggeration. It is your new musical obsession.
It's definitely mine. Well, it's not a new obsession.
Yeah.
It's an old obsession, actually. But
yeah, a little background on why it's so important to us and I guess to me. I came across the concept album, which was written by Anais Mitchell. Around 2010, 2011, I came across one of the main songs just listening late at night to NPR, and I was instantly hooked.
for those who are just like clicking in real quick, what is it about? Let's get into that first.
That's a great idea. So, bear with me here. It is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, which is the Greek tragedy.
Greek mythologies.
Yeah, the Cliff Notes version of that is Orpheus is the god of music. Eurydice is his lover. She dies, goes to Hades. Spoiler alert for some story thousands of years old. And he goes down to Hades to make a deal with Hades.
To try to reclaim his love and get her back.
Yep, to get her back. And he says you can go on one condition. You got to walk single file, and you cannot turn around to look behind you when you do. So it's not just the Greek tale itself. It's kind of reimagined into a modern day, not quite modern day, but almost like a Great Depression era pseudo post-apocalyptic America. Mm-hmm. And it's a crazy fusion of the two ideas, but it works so well. I always thought it should have been a play. I would always play it out in my mind as a stage play, figure out how that could have been done. Little did I know, some 5 years later, it would have been put on at a New York Theater Workshop. So around that time, I showed it to Driana while we were in college.
Yeah, we were working on our thesis projects, high stress, last year of college, no sleep, lots of ramen, in our computer lab. And he one day was just like, "Can I take you for a quick second? I really want to show you something." I'm like, "Oh, what is it?" And he's like, "There's this album I'm really into, and if you'd give it a listen, I'd really love it." And I'm like, "I love you forever, so of course I will." And little did I know that I would fall in love with it just as much as you did. I thought it was just going to be like, "Oh, this is just something he's liked for years. I should humble him and, give it a listen."
Yeah.
But
and indie folk is so not your thing anyway,
indie folk is not usually my thing.
That's not usually mine either. So.
But it was such a well-told story that it captured my heart right away. So after Andrew showed me this album and I fell in love with it, we went to see Anais Mitchell pretty soon after that in 2016, September 2016, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we saw her live. She performed. She was amazing. We were pretty close to her.
She did a lot of her original music as well as music from the album, so it was a nice mix because from listening to the album, I had gotten really into a lot of her other music, so it was very cool. And we actually ended up getting to meet her, and she signed our copy of Hadestown.
Talked to her a little bit.
Yeah. Told her how much it meant to me and how much I cry every time I listen to it.
Yeah. So getting back into the original album, the Anais Mitchell album before the play, what I loved about the album that got me hooked on it after you showed me was the fact that in the album, it was played by several different performing artists, singers. So it starts off, as an intro song, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be the one singer that sings the whole album. No, every character has a different artist that portrays that person through a set type of song and personality and stuff like that. So we have Orpheus and Eurydice. Eurydice actually played by Anais Mitchell herself. So if you give that a listen, that is Anais Mitchell. So my favorite song, just throwing it out there, is the wedding song.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Persephone's song.
I have two favorite songs.
Yeah.
So, the wedding song, which is the first song on the album, which should get you, it's telling the tale of their love. You know, Eurydice is this poor, hungry little girl. Not little, but young lady. She's not a baby.
Young, underage girl.
No, she's of age. Because they want to potentially get married. You know, she's all like, you know, who's going to buy the wedding band? Who's going to get us our food? Where are we going to lie the wedding bed? And, you know, Orpheus is, you know, playing his guitar and just trying to suave her up and be like, you know, the trees are going to lay the wedding table. The birds are going to, the feathers are going to give us the wedding band. Just nature. Everything is going to come to us and it's just going to happen. Believe me, through love.
Through his music. Through love and his music. Because, you know, he's like, when I sing, the birds will come fly around and leave their feathers for the bed. The trees will give us fruit and wood to make the table. So it's just kind of a trust me, trust in our love. We'll get through anything together.
And he's just so darn cute, I guess, that Eurydice was like, okay,
swoon.
I'm so swooned by your words. Because they didn't really say it too much in the album, but more so in the play, that he is blessed by the gods. So like, he's not just a suave singer. Like, his song influences others and makes them believe in things do happen through just his soul that's in the songs. Yep. So, wedding song's my favorite. And
Persephone's.
And Persephone's song. Persephone, the goddess of the underworld. Hades' one true love, his wife. She had this, the way I envisioned it the first time was this cabaret kind of like boudoir, like.
It's like a speakeasy.
Oh, yeah. She did this wonderful lady being all like, you know, I'm tired of living down here. My husband's just a good for nothing. Let's drink. But she's all being sexy and like, you know, seductive about it. Yeah. So, like,
and that's some of the difference between the character in the concept album to how Amber Gray portrays her on stage, who's a little more loose and kind of like, yeah, let's party. But in the concept album, it is, like you said, a little more suave and like, come on, boys, you know.
I don't know about you, boys.
Yeah, and it's very metaphorical and like metaphysical, where it's the lyrics are like, when's the last time you saw the sky? I've got the rain on tap at the bar. I've got the moon here in my pay-per-view, because they're underground. Hadestown exists as a real place underground, so the people that die, it's all very not quite as on the nose as the stage play, which is actually one of my critiques about the Broadway, which we'll get into later. But the whole story itself is all very like symbolic, and is it really happening? Are they really dead? Did they just take this train to go to a place that's underground to work? Work. It's definitely worth going and seeing. It is still playing on Broadway right now, which congratulations again to them on the Tonys. I want to read off what they won. So at the Tonys this year, Hadestown took Best Orchestrations, Best Sound Design, Best Lighting Design, which that was incredible, and we'll get into particulars of that. Best Scenic Design, which goes hand in hand with that, so no surprise there. Best Featured Actor for Andre de Shields, who played Hermes, who's kind of Orpheus's guide. Best Direction for Rachel Chafkin. Best Original Score, of course, because it's based off of an amazing, amazing album. And overall, Best Musical. That's like winning Best Picture at the Oscars.
What? Just Best
Musical?
Musical?
Just the best one. Of all the musicals this year.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. Are you surprised, though?
No, I'm not. Like, I'm not surprised because it is worth it, but, like, I'm a little surprised because, like, it started off as such a baby for me that, like...
I know. Watching it grow into, like, this... and bloom into this wonderful rose.
Not to be, like, a hipster, but, like, I liked it before everyone thought it was cool. Before it was cool.
Yeah, well, I was into the concept album before Anais Mitchell even thought of it, so...
When she was in the womb, I was already thinking...
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
Yes. Rousing. Standing ovation, even though we'll be off camera.
So, let's get into the play. Like, we got into the album, which influenced the play, but let's get on to the off-Broadway and then eventually the on-Broadway one.
Yeah, the biggest thing, I think, was just seeing it all happen at once visually in front of your eyes, because I was so used to just having it as an auditory experience, just listening to the album and picturing in my head how certain things would play out. And some things were spot on, like exact, and some things were totally different, and for the better. I think without spoiling how I feel about the Broadway one, I think the off-Broadway one is overall my favorite viewing experience of the two.
I would agree.
For different reasons. And there are some things that the Broadway does way better, as you'd expect with, the bigger budget and bigger space to do it. But just seeing it all play out and the lighting, and it was so... The New York Theater Workshop is designed to be more intimate. So it was a much smaller crowd. We were all around the stage, and the actors were kind of walking around us, and like we could reach out and touch them, like they were right there.
Just to like kind of visualize it a little bit, like imagine around the stage are seats and risers that people get to sit on, but like you also become a part of the scenery a little bit, because like he said, like the actors are close enough to touch, so like they're weaving and wobbling through the seat. Sometimes they sit down right, if there was an empty seat, they would sit down and like sing right next to you, and you're like, is this allowed? Can I touch them? Or
for there's like a call and response part to Persephone's song, and
if you know the album, you know what to say.
Yep, and
Our Lady of the Underground.
Yeah, Persephone says like, "What's my name?" And she put the mic right to us, because we were in like the front seat, and we of course belted out like, "Our Lady of the Underground," and Amber Gray kind of did this little like oh, okay,
you know the song.
You know it.
There was at one point where like they're like saying cheers, let's raise a glass and have a drink, and I think they gave some to the audience members.
They were passing something around. I don't know if it was...
We didn't get any,
we didn't get any of that.
But like whatever those actors were drinking, some of the audience members were drinking the same thing for those type of scenes. So like it was very intimate, very close. Just it was never just you're sitting straight looking at performers performing for you. Yeah. Like there's times they were behind you and you had to like look all around. And
there was like kind of risers, catwalks above that they were kind of like walking around, and it all just echoed all around you. It was just so intimate, and which is probably why I was crying the entire time.
No costume changes or anything like that. Everyone was kind of in one.
Yeah, there wasn't an intermission, was it?
No, there was an intermission. I believe there was an intermission, if I remember correctly, but there was no costume changes. It was kind of like all just what was there was what was there, like with very few changes. Like at one point, the only thing that changed on the stage was the fact that like lights came down.
Yeah.
And the muses would use them to like set the tone and make it feel a little eerie, and like the lights would dim down and all that stuff.
Yeah. Which they took, like I mentioned, they took the lighting design in the Broadway one and just like up to 100.
Yes, absolutely.
But keeping with this one, as you can see here, one of the coolest parts was because it was so intimate. The actors actually just came out straight afterwards, and we got to meet all of them. So we actually got our posters signed by the main crew. So up here we have Damon Dono, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who was Orpheus. Nabia Bey, again, apologize if I'm butchering that. But then Amber Gray, and I believe this is Chris Sullivan, who was Hermes, and who actually went on to, he played... the diner owner in
Stranger Things. In one of the first couple episodes, we're like, "What? That's Hermes!"
Yeah, I was like, Hermes out. And then, spoiler alert for the first episode of Stranger Things, he bites it right away. So we were like, "No,
Hermes!"
Hermes. But he was phenomenal too. He might have been my favorite performance of that show. He was so good. I was very happy with the way Andre DeShields picked up that mantle in the Broadway one, but I really missed Chris Sullivan's kind of. He had like a deep, like kind of southern voice, but then Hades comes out and it's like, I missed you. And it's just like
we build the wall.
he doesn't even sing, he just growls.
Yes,
he rumbles.
And I'm glad they brought him back for the main Broadway show, because like I don't know who else could play that role.
I don't think anyone could get those low notes as much as Patrick Page can.
Yeah.
So yeah, Patrick Page and Amber Gray, who played Persephone, they were the same in the off-Broadway and the on-Broadway, which was nice.
The off-Broadway had my best main protagonist, in my opinion, Orpheus and Eurydice, because you guys might know, but we are dating, engaged, about to get married. So it hits a little bit home when there's like these main characters that are singing about love and getting married. Like,
And they looked like us.
And they looked like us. It was an interracial couple. A person of color, brown skinned female, and not so brown skin.
And an unpigmented white boy like myself.
No, stop that. So it was definitely a little bit of projection. Like, I was looking, when I looked at them, I saw us a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's us. But please don't let me lose my soul.
I know. Plus, it hit so home to us because, like, I had been in love with it for close to 5 years.
Eons.
I showed it to Driana as, like, a love song. Like, it's a love story. It really is, even though it is, like, a very...
love song. It's a love song. It's a sad tale. It's a tragedy.
It's a sad tale.
So the Off-Broadway show decided to add I don't know if they decided, but Nance Mitchell, added a couple more songs to make it a little bit longer to fit the time run of the Off-Broadway show. And some of those songs like stick with us still now because they weren't in the original concept album, and we fell in love with those anyway.
Yeah.
So I think
it didn't feel like that they were
tacked on
new material. Or definitely didn't feel like they were tacked on, and it didn't even feel like it was new material. It felt like I still was crying at the new songs, even though I didn't know what they were. And that's just how I knew. Like, it wasn't just because it was familiar and I loved it. It was just because it was that good.
So one critique of the album is that, like, if you might not know the tale, like the Greek tale of Orpheus and Eurydice, you may need to fill in some gaps with your brain that might be a little bit hard to do that, in my opinion. With the Off-Broadway, with that extra added songs, it like filled in those gaps that were missing originally in the beginning. So like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this flows so much more like A to Z without anything skipping in between. It just filled in some gaps that were desperately needed, that the Off-Broadway did, and it was just needed for me personally.
Yeah, it definitely, I don't know if it was necessary, but it definitely helped guide you through the story itself instead of kind of piecing it together in your mind like you have to on the album itself. Which actually, getting into the on-Broadway one, like you said about how they kind of insert things here and there to kind of fill in the gaps and kind of smooth the cracks over. One of my maybe critiques about the Broadway version is that it kind of feels like they just kind of poured story like all over it. So it almost feels a little bit hand-holdy and spoon-fed at times, where it's like, this is exactly why this is happening and exactly why like Orpheus has these like mystical powers, and like it's a song that like the gods used to sing or something, rather than it just kind of being his natural charisma and just latent musical ability. And speaking on Orpheus, another thing that I liked that the Off-Broadway did better was they made Orpheus in the Broadway one into kind of like this bumbling fool. And it seemed like one of the things that was part of his, no pun intended, but charm, was that he had that charm and charisma, and he was great to be around, and that's why he was able to stir up the followers that he did in the Off-Broadway one. But on Broadway, he was just kind of like, he was a waiter, which I thought was kind of weird, and he was like bumping around into stuff and like, oh, I'm sorry, oh. But then once he starts playing music, he like is like super confident. So like, I understand the duality of that, and like when he's playing music, like he's confident because it's like mystical and from the gods. But it seemed like it wasn't really about him. It was just kind of, he was a vessel. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I agree. I mean, I don't think, in my opinion, that kind of stuff is adorable to me. Like, the bumbling idiot's like, aw, you pity him, and it's like, oh, that's so cute. And like, and he sings, oh, he stole my heart. So like, I agree with you, but I don't take that as like really a negative thing, because that's what I like.
Yeah, it's just a different take on it. And that's not to take anything away from Reeve Carney's performance as Orpheus in On Broadway. He was phenomenal. Actually, holy crap, how did that get there? He was the only one that came out to talk to us on the Broadway one. So we have his signature on this one too, which was nice. So thanks, Reeve.
Yeah, thank you. So I thought it was a little, I don't want to say weird, but different that he was a waiter and that like they were in a restaurant, kind setting. I didn't think that was necessarily needed because in the off-Broadway show, they didn't really do too much backstory, like, to put them in the setting of a modern setting. We knew it was a modern setting. We didn't need to know exactly where, when, or how.
Yeah, or
and
like,
I liked that.
Or like how Hermes was like, oh, I took this kid under my wing when his parents died, and it's like...
That was unneeded.
It took away kind of the mysticism of it. And what I love so much about the album and the off-Broadway one is that it had this perfect balance of the mysticism and the symbolism and the reality. So you get kind of both. Whereas on the Broadway one, it felt a little more leaning towards reality.
So the on-Broadway version, they changed the main characters, so we don't have our interracial couple anymore. Yeah. But we have a new one.
A new interracial couple.
Yes, Ava Noblezada?
Noblezada.
I think that is. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. I loved her performance of Eurydice.
She was amazing.
Her voice spoke to me and gave me chills.
Yeah. Again, I was still crying the whole time.
Absolutely. I was just like, whoa, like, you're blowing me away. They definitely, like, upped that, you know, that she was a hungry girl way more in the Broadway version, because before they just mentioned she's a hungry girl in the off-Broadway version, and she just needs a home and a warm place to go, and Orpheus could provide for that, so she went to go find Hades to see if he helps her out with that. So.
Yeah, you'd think Orpheus having a job as a waiter, he'd be able to provide at least a little bit, because off-Broadway it seemed like he was, you know, just a wandering vagabond, like, poet who was trying to, like, make his way in the world. But, you know, if you got a part-time job, just got to work more hours. And especially if you're a waiter, don't you get discounts or free food that you can feed her with?
Yeah. My other critique was that, like, in the off-Broadway, they felt their love was a little more, I don't know, solidified, in my opinion. Like, there was no doubt about the love. Orpheus in the on-Broadway version, like, I don't say that he didn't care about her, but, like, when he was like, I need to finish this song, I need to write this song, I was like...
Yeah.
That made it seem
neglectful.
Like... Yeah, it made him seem way more neglectful than the previous version.
It does add a little bit to, like, his arc, though. I mean, I don't think if... It doesn't quite fit the whole, like, innocent, bumbling fool who's then all of a sudden like, I just gotta work, you know.
Yeah.
Stop, don't bother me, woman.
I mean, he didn't say that.
No, but he was very... I mean, unless it's, you know, that kind of... He's just so absorbed into his work that he just shuts everything else out, which I can see because he was a very more, like, reserved, introverted Orpheus this time. But through all these critiques, I don't want to sound like I didn't love it, because I absolutely did. And there was, like I said, a lot of things that the Broadway version did better than the off-Broadway. Like I said, in terms of what they won the awards for, lighting and scenery.
And let's get into that.
And holy crap.
Wow.
One of the areas where I feel like them inserting the little bits of extra realism that really supported the story and really helped get me invested was they added this whole kind of like mine aesthetic. So the background dancers had like dirty overalls on and like
helmets.
They had the helmets with the lights on it, and like the lights would come down
Face
low.
was smudged.
Smudged. Like smoke would come up and you could see their headlights moving through the smoke and stuff.
And then the stage moved.
The stage moved.
Was moving.
Maybe that's like a common thing in Broadway shows and we just don't go to that many, because this was my first Broadway show. So
I'm just used to them like going from side to side, you know, acting and, you know, making us all convinced. But like now, like instead of them pretending to run for miles, the stage is moving and they're actually just jogging in place to represent that they're going through this long journey. And
it was like circular. So it went around. And the way that they illustrated the transition from the surface world to Hadestown was nuts. So it was very, I don't want to say claustrophobic, but it was very close-knit stage. And then the middle section, the circle, when Eurydice dies, we can just say descends. She just on her own, smoke comes up, she goes down, and it's almost like if we were a camera, we were following her down, because the stage the sides pushed away and the ceiling lifted up, and then behind the kind of run down walls of the surface world, it opened up and became glitzy and shiny, but not in like a
glamorous way.
Not in a glamorous way, in a like a Vegas underbelly kind of way. Like just bright lights, and it was kind of just so gaudy, and it was perfect. And like exposed wires and pipes and rust.
It was just so bright. It was blinding to us.
Yeah, we were like...
They got the award for good reasons.
Yeah, the lighting and the scenery design worked seamlessly, and it was... I would have been offended if they had won one without the other. Mm-hmm. And they also won for Best Sound Design. And I felt like when it got down into Hades, the sound of the microphones almost like had more of an echo to it. I don't know if that was intentional or not. The only time that I know it definitely was in Hades' big song, Why We Build the Wall, where he was standing up and like looking down over his subjects, and there was almost like this megaphone effect to it. Like he was this like totalitarian leader, and he's just broadcasting this out just for everyone to hear.
Meanwhile, I'm in the crowd just belting, like, I know this song. And like I'm looking like, who else knows this song? And like no one else was. No one was singing. I'm like, why are you guys not singing?
No one was singing along, and no one was crying. So she was like singing everything, and I'm just like sobbing to myself. And this woman next to me is like, dude, they just came out and nothing's even happened yet. And I'm already just like bubbling.
Because in the off-Broadway version, like, you would have had to have known about the album to kind of go see it. So, like, everyone was singing along, like, to the songs and with the actors, the call and responses. And then we get to the Broadway version, and the same song, the Persephone song, where, like, there is a call and response. She did stick out the mic to the audience, and no one
we were the only ones.
And I'm like, Our Lady of the Underground.
People are like, what the heck? So
I wanted to stand up and be like, I know this song!
Yeah, I don't know if it's just... I think it might have just been more of like a... It's a Broadway show. It's a new Broadway show, so a lot of people will just go and see whatever's on Broadway
like
because it's on Broadway.
Yeah, and if they're in, if they live in New York, date night, let's just go see this show.
Yeah, they get season tickets to the theater or whatever.
Yeah, versus we actively sought out the Broadway show and was like, it's on Broadway, like it's upgrading.
Yeah,
what's next, a movie?
Yeah, probably. But an interesting thing about when you were saying we were singing along with the off-Broadway one
the whole time,
whole time in between my tears, something cool that we found out, we actually have the cast recording here.
Yes.
We found out that the cast recording of the off-Broadway one was recorded the night that we were there. So you can probably hear us singing and me crying in the background of that one. So.
I hope not. So I just real quick, not trying to divvy off a little too long, but the climax of the show and the climax song of the album, Why We Built the Wall.
You think so? That was your...
Oh, absolutely. It's such a powerful song with a very like deep political meaning behind it, which is relevant to our own modern day society.
So relevant.
So Why We Built the Wall was created by Nance Mitchell years ago. I don't want to quote the exact year, but...
Like 2010?
Maybe 2010, yeah. 2010. And it just speaks about kind of like these mind-controlled, not beings, but like the people. Like, people living in Hadestown, they think they have it all. They think they have what they need. But are they just kind of controlled by, the tyrant, capitalism and Hades himself? So Why We Build the Wall, like, it's a call and response kind of song, like, why do we build the wall, my children, why do we build the wall? And then they say,
we build the wall to keep us free, and it kind of adds on every time. We build the wall to keep us free, to keep out the enemy. The enemy is poverty. What do they have that we should want? We have a wall to work upon. So
we have work, they have none.
We have work and they have none. And our work is never done.
My children, my children.
We're just going to sing the whole thing.
Pretty much. So, like, that speaks to me because, like, in modern day, us living in what we have now, not going to speak his name. He shall who not be named. Not Voldemort. I feel like we have our own political tyrant, capitalism, and who is trying to build a wall.
a literal physical wall. It's
That's-
not even symbolic anymore. It's just a straight up
that keeps out the enemy, and we build a wall
Poverty.
to keep us free the United States. And it's really interesting because Anais Mitchell made this way before He Shall Not Be Named
art
became in power.
Our art imitates life,
Yeah, so like
or life imitates art.
it shows that like Hades, his people really think like they have it all. They have work. And like they're not living in poverty because they're working so much, but they're shunning their fellow man and like
and they've sold their soul. That's the whole like the double meaning of you sold your soul quite literally like to the devil in Hadestown, but it's also like you're selling your soul to capitalism.
Yeah, and you're like not even aware of it.
Yeah, and
You think that like life is grand, but is it really?
Yeah, that's what one of my favorite lines was. So when Eurydice gets down to Hades, she signs her life away, and Hermes says, what she was dead to the world anyway. So and then the fates come out and sing about like this is what we promised you, this is what you signed up for, everlasting overtime and never like reaching your dreams and being like just shut off from creativity and just working for somebody who's above you. And
powerful stuff like that like gives me chills like every single time it comes on, just like so relevant. So very powerful stuff. That song's powerful. Plenty other powerful songs as well.
The whole thing
is just wonderful. So that's our story, our experience with Hadestown.
That is our experience share. Maybe be the first experience share.
Didn't. So yeah, thank you for spending some time with us. If you've gotten this far in the video, thank you for giving us a listen. Please definitely, if you have time, check out Hadestown.
I would say if you want to be completionist about it, which is kind of how I typically am, listen to the concept album first, and then the cast album. The Broadway cast album, I believe, is available now, but I would say if you want just like a good jumping on point that's a middle of the road, look up the New York Theater Workshop cast album. That's, I think, my favorite iteration of it so far. I wish I could take that rendition and those characters and place them into the set of the Broadway one, but in a perfect world. Like I said, there are things that I loved most about the concept album and the New York Theater Workshop and the Walter Kerr Theater one. But yeah, if you have the time and the money, go see Hadestown on Broadway. It is going to be playing until the actual apocalypse. I looked to see how far the tickets were available, and it's like well until January. So you've got plenty of time. It may even be extended further because of all the awards that it's winning from the Tony Awards. So
yeah, and if you get that far and have completed all those things, plug in Anais Mitchell. Check out some of her other songs as well.
Yeah, she's a fantastic guy. Like I said, the indie folk thing is totally not my bag, but because I fell in love with Hadestown so hard, I got real into like her other music, and she's got great. Actually, if you're a Welcome to Night Vale fan, she did one of the weather songs on one of the earlier episodes.
She did,
which was called On a Friday Night, which is one of my favorites. So definitely check out her other music, and let us know. This was kind of our first. If we call it experience share, this is our first session of sharing a longer experience with you guys. So let us know what you think about this sort of long form video, what you liked about it, what you maybe want to see changed, and
yeah, we'll work from there. Hopefully we can get more people to come in, different faces, and share their experiences, some guests maybe.
Yeah, and if you want, get the conversation going down below. Tell us if you've seen it. Tell us if you now want to see it. If any other recommendations?
You want to go to New York with us and see it again?
Yeah, come on.
We'll go with you.
We'll rent out a megabus.
Oh my, not that many people. But yeah, so thank you for spending some time with us. Again, Driana.
And I'm Andrew.
And
we're out.
I don't know how to end
it.
And
the curtain is closing.
Curtain down.
And we will bow to no applause whatsoever. And exit stage left. See ya. That was stage right, you fool!
Well, it was my left. It was stage left. Or a stage...
It's
is
from
stage left...
It's from the audience.
Is the audience perspective?
Yes.
Dang it.
This is why we need to get out more.